Okay, we're about to jump into a GVH, Genetron versus Hybrids. Whenever I feature a new custom Starcraft race for the first time, I like to give a quick primer about how the race works so you can enjoy the game action without becoming hopelessly lost, wondering what you're actually looking at. If you're already familiar with the Hybrids, then just jump ahead. It's going to be a fun game. So here comes the very basics of the Hybrid distilled down as far as I can get it. You probably recognize the Hybrids as the big bad guys from the Starcraft campaign. The lore is that they are a fusion of Zerg and Protoss, but instead of resulting in the rebirth of the Xel'Naga, thanks to the mad visionary Amon, the fusion is corrupted and we get really big bad demon dudes instead. Definitely a demonic look and feel here, lots of oversized units with lots of health and scary sounding abilities. The good news here is, in my view anyways, the Hybrid are below average complexity. They are quite easy to learn. Maybe harder to master, but that's exactly what we want. Accessibility, but with room to grow. So, supply is made with the Ionic Crystal. Yep, you'll gradually need a lot of them. More on these later. Let me just tease by mentioning you can actually slowly shift and move them around, which is kind of cool. And all the units, yes, all of them, are made with the Void Rift. Yes, even the air units. So it's kind of like Zerg in that production is centralized, but since you can only make one unit at a time from a Void Rift, you'll probably want a ton of them. Fortunately, it only costs 175 minerals, no gas. You then pick up additional tech structures to gradually unlock bigger, badder demon dudes. And that is all you really have to know to play. Simple, right? Now, if you want to go deeper though, you can explore the central strategic concept for the Hybrid race. It's called the network. The idea is that the Hybrids operate either inside or outside of these large concentric circles created by the Ionic crystals. And when a unit is inside the circle, meaning they're inside the network, they get key advantages. When they're outside, they don't have them. Most importantly is regeneration to the unit's shields and life, but also to their individual numeric energy bars, which is used to power most of their more powerful abilities. The end result is the Hybrid want to push the network outwards like creep, but not necessarily, because the second part of the concept is the network actually gains in strength dependent on how many power buildings are found within a concentric circle. So there's not just creep, there's kind of levels of creep, better creep and mega creep. Mega creep. That sounds familiar. Did my ex say something about that? Anyways, so watch the network circles in this game and see how the players use it to their advantage. For example, when you play against the Hybrid, you're usually looking to assassinate the death ball when it's outside the network, where it's comparatively easier to kill, especially in late game where the network advantage really starts to add up. A few final details to mention. How does the race get detection? You need a unit called a Screamer. Wait a minute. Also reminds me of my ex. Anyway, but if you just want the vision to scout, you can actually transform the Harvester units, called minions, into Spirits, which are fast-flying units that can't attack, but perfect for scouting. Also, the Hybrid's turret is also a detector. The race only has one turret, one kind of turret, but it might just be the coolest turret in the game. It's expensive and powerful, but check out what it does. You can hit a button and convert it from a ground attack only turret into an air attack only turret. I love this. Okay, that's enough. Let's get into the game. Enjoy it and then give some thought as to whether you'd like to test drive a Hybrid today. You knew I was gonna go with it. Are you ready? Because I was born ready for this. Actually, I was born bald and naked and covered in amniotic fluid, but that's neither here nor there. That thunder strike is the sound of the temple casting void immunity. Gives you a 50% speed buff, which is pretty huge for mining, but it also has a massive defensive bonus as well. It doesn't last long and the cooldown is huge. So yes, we've got a GVH today. The first time I've attempted to cast such a thing, so bear with me. That would be the inaugural Ionic Crystal coming up. Notice how the Hybrid minion harvesters can build structures from a distance, kind of like the Chiron. Our Genetron player is a 2020 psychological thriller available only in India. He is Asur! Seriously, the guy whose very name means demon is playing the robots? The actual guy playing the demons is a hit rock song by a Canadian band called Rush. He is Tom Sawyer!
Monday warrior, mean strike. Today's Tom Sawyer, mean pride.
Sawyer is definitely known on this channel for his creative strats. Excited to see what he'll have for us today. Asur with that early expand for the Genetron? That is right in character with what we've seen from him so far. Asur's a macro player, he expands early and often. But right now he's keeping on top of his scouting. There's another thunder crack from the hybrids. That void immunity ability is gonna put me on edge all game long. The void rift is up and we can see there's a warrior in production already. Oh, and a minion has converted into a spirit. Sawyer's gonna do some scouting too. The warrior that just popped out there is kind of like the hybrid marine. A light biological unit that hits air and ground. It also has the same range as a marine. And it might be enough to nab the first blood. It is. Definitely don't have a graphic for that. We'll throw up a generic one in post. Oh, by the way, you may have seen in the last game of Asur I cast that I pretty much indicated he was a Korean. He's not Korean, he's just a dude who's not afraid to play on the Korean server. And as long as I'm getting my housekeeping out of the way, let's make sure I don't forget to credit the map. It is Grezvin. A nice macro map for a macro player. Asur has not yet made any units. And the Spitfire he's working on in his manufacturer is not capable of shooting at that spirit. Sawyer's gonna get a scout off here that's both safe and luxurious. Though he really does have to sacrifice a worker to do it. He can't convert it back into a minion harvester at a later time. But by perching it on Asur's ramp, he's gonna get to see everything that's happening. Second Void Rift going down for Sawyer. I'm no hybrid expert, but I'll tell you, you can't get away with just a few of those. You need a lot. Those warriors all look like mini-me's to me. They're miniaturized hybrids. I bet when they shout their battle cries, they do it with a little high-pitched squeaky voice. Oh, speaking of improved sound, is this the first time I've been able to show you guys the new Spitfire look? It's definitely more unique, but it's not really the new visual that got me so happy. I really prefer the new sound effect for the Spitfire shot. The old one was overpoweringly loud. The new one is much more fitting for a unit that sees high use in almost every game. I love how these races are constantly evolving and improving. Blows my mind. And speaking of art, I will put on my wish list for one day. Oh, fast third from Asur, no surprise there. I was gonna say, I'd like to see the hybrid get an improved effect for its circles. Right now, it's just kind of this generic green circle that looks like it's been drawn with a protractor. Oh man, that spirit is still getting the scout off. He's literally counting all the Spitfires. Somebody needs to pick a rock up off the ground and throw it at the spirit. I mean, dude, come on. There we go, he's building a blitzer. Those guys can shoot up. So we're even on army. Asur's got a slight lead on workers, but it's Sawyer who's pulling in way more minerals, almost certainly because of that void immunity ability. Oh, and he's spending that money on sentinels. All you co-op players are gonna recognize that unit as Dahaka. Once a powerful Zerg boss, now he gets a new life as a hybrid enforcer. Oh, spirit flew right into the turret there. The Sentinel certainly looks like he's a melee attacker, but he's actually got a range of 1. Combine that with his jump ability and he's really cool to watch. The jumping attack actually has a stunning effect, but it's so brief you might not notice it. It's less than a second. Oh, look at that. They're lining up for the family photo shoot. Who knew that the hybrid would queue up so politely? I don't know if anybody will agree with me, but I feel like bright yellow is the wrong color for hybrid. I think when you play them, you gotta go for a dark menacing red or some kind of lizard green. But lavender Genetron, I could definitely get behind that. So now that the Blitzer lost his job, he was clearly built to go kill that spirit. It looks like Asur's just gonna send him up to scout and see what he can find. Sawyer loading up on those sentinels. Asur just going for Spitfires. He's getting away with hoarding his gas on buildings and upgrades. If he gets away with that, he could really get ahead. And now he's gonna push out. The lone Blitzer's gonna find the third. He's gonna kill the minion. But here comes the sentinel horde. Oh yeah, we got jumping, baby. Crisscross will make you jump. One of my favorite things is the jump is actually something you can put on autocast. You can do it manually if you want to time it perfectly, but A button right click works just as well. Oh, the Spitfires just got shredded there. But that is a much more expensive army. No doubt balance is going to be a discussion point, but this isn't illustrative of anything. Yet. It might be if he just straight up wins the game from here. Asur's making Spitfires 5 at a time. I think the manufacturers are all in performance mode. He might want to overclock those. There's a wall here, but there's a lot of Sentinels, and they jump the wall. Oh, that is so cool. I did not consider that functionality. The Genetron are just getting carved up here. Now hold on, he is kiting well, and he is reinforcing even without the overclock. Oh my god, I think it worked. The Sentinels are cleaned up, and I don't think the Warriors buy them. Nope, the Warriors are cleaned up as well. That was a sick hold. That could have been game right there at the 6-minute mark. But that was some really boss level kiting all the way back up his ramp there. Figures, I'm pitching him as some kind of macro bot. So of course he goes and pulls that off. That's gotta be scary if you're Sawyer. You just threw your A punch, and the guy just took it. Well, rather than mope, he's added in the unit the Silent. They'll definitely outrange those Spitfires, and that'll put an end to any kiting. Oh, and for good measure, he's also gonna build a monolith. Yeah, he's nervous about the counterattack, and he should be. Genetron is up on army. But what's really going on here is that Asur's actually taken a 4th. He's also gonna be ahead on bases. Okay, you can admit it, the monolith is the most righteous looking turret you've ever seen. Oh, Asur's gonna push out with more Spitfires again. He's got the speed upgrade for them, and he's getting the Madcap upgrade right now. That's gonna give him +1 range. But even still, I feel like this is kind of old tech at this phase of the game. I don't expect too much to happen here, but the beauty of it is, it costs him 0 gas. It's kind of like a run by, but without the actual running by part. Oh yeah, he even picked up some worker kills there. But I think he's gotta cut out this economic skimping and make some more powerful units. All this coupon cutting and gas saving though, has let him get an assembly ray up. That means he can do an air transition. Meanwhile, Hybrid has his engine and is getting a void portal. Both our players climbing up that tech tree. But it's Asur who's got the econ advantage with that extra base. But what Sawyer's doing, speak of the devil, is void immunity, which is speeding up all the harvesters at his refineries, and he's killing Asur on gas. 2 more assembly arrays for Genetron. Definitely seeing some kind of air transition. Sawyer adding screamers and a navigator. A hybrid navigator? I thought those guys were gas guzzlers. I kid. The navigator, of course, is the name of the hybrid dropship. That big black rectangular unit. It's hard to miss because it comes with its own networking circle. Oh, hold that thought. Asur doesn't want to let Sawyer get away with this 4th base. It's in a very forward position. He sees it, it's naked, there's no defense here, though the hybrid army isn't too far away. Oh, but he's gotta react, otherwise it's a lot of free kills for the Genetron. Is he actually gonna be able to bring the temple down? Not if the Silent have anything to say about it. But will the Silent say anything? I mean, they're supposed to be silent, right? Anywho, because of that navigator, the hybrid army's actually traveling inside a network circle. The Spitfires, though, just don't seem to care, they're just plowing right in there. Asur's just getting it done with the bottom of his tech tree. Well, he is making a single mole. You'll see that the Screamers are actually shooting as well, and the Spitfires can't attack them back. So they're just gonna go and kill the temple. Asur getting so much done with so little here. So frustrating for Sawyer. He's got all these expensive fancy toys and they're just having the boots taken to them. I bet his Screamers just want to scream. I don't know if you saw it, but for a few seconds there, the Screamer actually did a burst and cloaked his army. Of course, that was kind of when Asur just decided to kill his temple instead. So now we're back to 4 bases to 3 for Genetron. And the neat part for Asur is that he hasn't actually expanded to any of his forward base positions yet. He's doing this entirely around the edges. Oh, there goes that mole. Whenever I see a single mole wandering out like that, I always wonder if it's going to be used as a sensor tower. Nope, looks like it's just being used to take a forward firing position. Nope, there it goes. So this isn't that new, but it's kind of new to me. You can full bury instead of half bury the mole now. So now it's cloaked, but the glowing blue ball means that it's activated its sensory array. It doesn't show up on a replay, unfortunately, but it's giving Asur sensor tower style vision, but only for units traveling on the ground, so he won't actually see that spirit flying by. And the spirit won't see the mole because he's cloaked. So 2 units next to each other and neither one knows that the other is there. God, I love this game. So Sawyer keeps on teching up. He's added a bunch of Warbringers now. For Asur, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He keeps going with those Spitfires, though he has mixed in a torrent to help him with those Screamers. That might look like Artanis has just joined the hybrid army and he's dropping orbital strikes. That's actually the Warbringer using his energy attack. Now, I always thought this was like the equivalent of the Zerg's Caustic Bile, but it's crazy good. You actually don't have to aim it. Just the A key and you're good to go. And because there's a network there, all those Warbringers are going to be rejuvenating their energy. That gave Asur something to think about. He's gone back to macro. More Spitfires, of course, but also processing drones being made now. And at the same time, Asur's expanded all the way to the top of the map. He just keeps snaking out on the right-hand side. His opponent doesn't expect that kind of expansion pattern. I don't think Sawyer even knows he's there. Yeah, his spirit doesn't see it. We've got spirit. Yes, we do. We've got spirit. How about you? No, we don't, because I'm not playing hybrid. Ordnance cache and chemical firm going up for Genetron. A processing core warping in for the hybrid. Sawyer taking a forward position. Is he gonna attack? He's going for it. Warbringer's silent, but also horrors. And Screamers. Somebody's got to scream at all that horror. And a Navigator, because you don't want to get lost on the way. Oh, those orbital strikes look so great. The Spitfires are like, I did not sign up for this. And they are so difficult to dodge. Asur's making 10 Spitfires to try to compensate here. Sawyer's dominating, but his Warbringers are going to run out of energy. Oh, Asur's adjusting his composition. Blitzers and more torrents. He knows he needs something that can shoot up to deal with those horrors. Having killed everything on the ground, the Spitfires are just gonna move out. They can't stand around and get destroyed. But Sawyer did make the precaution of adding 3 monoliths. Asur does not want to go that way. Meanwhile, the horrors are bombarding. They're using plasmatic charge. That's a bit of a mismatch there because the horrors actually slow their opponents, but they don't do too much when they attack a building. Meanwhile, that torrent is getting free shots in there. Sawyer's gonna try to move over to more fruitful pastures. And he might need to get his damage in quickly because there are a ton of blitzers on the way. Yeah, you can see those horrors are much more effective against units. Each horror costs 5 supply, by the way. Forget the blitzers, there's badgers coming out of the assembly arrays. And that's gonna be it for Sawyer's attack. Oh, the assembly arrays are all on overclock. The Genetron air transition will be quick and powerful. The horrors attack air, but it's anti-light, so I don't expect them to put up much of a fight here. The processing drones are just fueling the Badger shields. And that is all she wrote. Sawyer does have a huge bank though. He can remake another army here. But the hybrid attack did not do that much damage. If you want to be really cynical, all he really did was free up a bunch of supply to facilitate the Badger transition. Sawyer's gonna rebuild. He's making 7 silent. He makes them really quietly. No screamers. Look at all those turrets unused. I don't think the hybrid ever figured out that the Genetron expanded to the top right. Oh, I think these Badgers are just gonna go on tour here. We've seen what Badgers can do to ground targets. I think it's really hard to bring down Badgers without air units. They just lay waste to things on the ground. Oh, there was a pause for lag in the game, but we won't see it because we're building this off of a replay file. Asur maxes out his supply with a couple more Badgers. I'd love to see what happens with anti-air monoliths, but those are not gonna finish in time. They're also all anti-ground. Sawyer may not have fully appreciated the Badger transition, but he does now. Those giant Reavers are not able to do anything to the Badgers. They'll have to go after the Spitfires on the ground. That leaves the Silent to battle the Badgers. I don't know if there's enough of them. Sawyer's just gonna lose a fortune in units here. Or not, it looks like the Reavers are gonna get away. Asur's gonna focus on eliminating that base instead. That's an important one for Sawyer. Well, all bases are, but that's his freshest one. You do not want to see what a pack of Badgers can do to a poor defenseless hybrid base. So innocent. I mean, what did they ever do besides plot the universe's destruction? And I mean, if we're gonna start holding that against people, then what kind of world are we even living in? Okay, the Nemesis are here. Sawyer's trying to group together his capital ships, the Nemesis, Nemesi. The Badgers are gonna ignore them and go back to wrecking the bases. I don't know if that's intentional, but it's actually a pretty good idea. The yellow beam from the Nemesis is the high damage attack that uses energy. When they run out, they're gonna switch to that green attack. But if they get in a network, they can regenerate. And then the purple beam from the Screamers also recharges the energy. Not unlike a Genetron processing drone. It looks like the Nemesis are gonna have enough to focus down those Badgers. but Asur is already making another wave. He also keeps adding in blitzers that we haven't really seen. At some point, there's gonna be like a big tidal wave of them. Sawyer's gonna rebuild that base. There's not a lot of minerals to recoup there, but sometimes it's just the principle of the thing. If you slowly build up to your opponent's top right corner, is that considered a ninja expand? I don't think so, but it kinda has the same function. Sawyer's actually moved next to Asur, but I don't think he knows it. Starcraft, the game of incomplete information, don't ever change. I feel like when your opponent has a giant mining operation right next to you, you should hear something. But then we wouldn't get cool stuff like this. Okay, here come Badgers round 2. That's gotta be so demotivating. Didn't I just kill this fleet? Oh, the Nemesis have intercepted. They'd prefer to be fighting in a network circle though. Those blue flashes of the desolation spell from the Screamers. They cloak everything around them, but it only lasts 3 seconds. It's kind of like a very brief shield if your opponent doesn't have detection, which Asur does not, but I don't think it was actually a difference maker here. I think Sawyer managed to brute force it, and as a result, for the first time, he briefly got a supply lead. It disappeared because Asur went and made a ton of Avengers, but he had it. Yeah, so if I'm right about the Avengers, I really like this idea. Badgers are great, but this just turned into an air war. And dollar for dollar, I think Avengers are gonna be better. Because with the Badgers, you're paying for that elite ground destruction, and you're not really gonna use it. In this immediate scenario, anyway. Wow, Asur is just now finishing off building his triangular third. Only for him, it's his 6th base. I mean, if you can get away with that, that's fantastic. Normally in a longer game such as this, your most important undepleted bases are also the ones that are most far forward. And because they're far away from your production, they're the hardest to defend. But by saving his triangular third, he doesn't have that problem. Instead, the problem he has is a big pack of Nemesis rolling into his base. Avengers assemble! You just knew I wanted to say that. I think the Nemesi just got caught wasting their energy on that processing core. Now they're pretty depleted for what should be the main fight. If I'm Asur, I really want to target that navigator first. It might not be attacking, but it's important to get rid of that portable network. Sort of like you want to get rid of that mothership, even though it's not the biggest DPS threat. Though Asur could be proving me wrong here. He wins the fight pretty handily anyway, and then just blows up the navigator at the end. Now the great thing about all these Avengers is, they still have the capacity to attack ground. Comparable to a Phoenix or a Viking, they still have some secondary utility. And that of course is the Vengeance Missile. The Genetron player can use that to attack the ground. It looks like Sawyer's gonna try to switch back to horrors now. He's got 4 in production. But he's gonna need them like yesterday because the Avenger Horde is on its way. You might have noticed that the stat screen on the bottom show that Sawyer has 0 investment in tech. That's an error. I'm sure he's got more than 0. I think the program just can't identify what hybrid tech is. It's like Cthulhu. It's dark and unknowable. Now, in addition to the Avengers, there's also a horde of Spitfires coming in here. The Monoliths are getting free shots at them, but in exchange, the Genetron got a really good position, and the Avenger missiles just bring that Monolith right down. Oh, the Horror doing good damage to those reinforcements. But are the Horrors horrific enough to deal with the Avengers? Screamer rips off a Desolation Cloak. There are processing drones in that aerial death ball though. But who cares? The Horrors and the Nemesis are working together to get it done. The Avenger Horde is cleaned up. Didn't think I would see that. Even supply. Didn't think I was gonna see that. Asur goes for another round of mass production on the Avengers. He's also gonna add in some torrents. Those worked well for him against the Horrors last time. So this is what it looks like when Venn diagrams turn evil. Lone Badger versus Monolith. Oh, the Nemesis are gonna show up and cheat. That's gonna get cleaned up as well. And the Screamers are gonna recharge the Nemesis. Definitely got some late game scrappiness out of Sawyer here. He's gonna make a game of this. Asur responds as he always does. He takes another base. That's the penalty for beating one of Asur's armies. You cause him to take another base. Of course, if you don't beat up his army, he probably takes another base. We're coming up on the 20-minute mark, and this is where I think exhaustion starts to become a factor. Who's got the endurance to manage the next battle? Oh, look what Sawyer's found. He's like looking at those mineral patches, and he's like, whoa. How long has this base been here for? Asur's just happy to be getting use out of those turrets he built ages ago. His opponent never attacked, so it was just dead money. Is Asur gonna try to save this base? Is he gonna bring up his Avengers? Or does he want to mass them up some more? He is actually making a huge round of blitzers. The processing core goes into lockdown mode, and now the Nemesi are wasting a lot of energy on it. I think if you're just killing buildings, you want to go green. But Sawyer's probably thinking he's on the clock and he needs to get in and out. And he's not wrong. The Avengers are close by. All right, big clash coming here. Who's got this? Advanced Nemesis with horrors in the back. And Screamers, of course. Asur's got Torrents in the back, and they are doing work. If he can cut through the Avengers, he can get to those Torrents. He just might. Sawyer looks to be winning, but his supply is falling. Asur is macroing behind this much harder. Oh, and Genetron Hornet makes an appearance. And here come the blitzers I've been waiting for. No, they're pulling back. Is Asur microing the supercharge? Yes, he is. Guys like KOP, DSD have turned this into an art form, doing that double damage over and over. You get very high DPS for the amount of minerals you spend. Like Stim Marines, it becomes an efficient killing machine. And the last Nemesis makes his dramatic death scene. And the ACRs casually go back to mining like nothing has happened. Sawyer is hurting for gas now. He's making warriors. I'm pretty sure he's doing that because he doesn't have the gas to do anything else. I think the Econ War is starting to take its toll here. Big advantage to Asur. And he's gonna flex by cranking out a whole bunch of more Avengers on overclock. I can't track his energy production, but we see he's got a ton of generators going. I don't think energy management's a problem here. Sawyer looking to expand. He'd love to secure those geysers. The hybrid actually has a structure that recharges depleted gas geysers. I've actually wanted to see something like that for a very long time. It adds a whole other dimension to strategy, but the problem is the balance implications are insane. Because if you can force your opponent into a mine out scenario, you have a huge advantage. It also means you can turtle, and your opponent can't just take the map on you and win. Okay, here comes the we don't cost gas warriors. It's death by mini-me. Hey, this works for Zerglings all the time, but I don't think these guys have the equivalent of a crackling upgrade. Oh, the Avengers are gonna chase him out. Sawyer does not have the army to go head to head with that thing. Never mind the supercharged blitzers that are following them up from behind. Oh, vengeance missiles on the warriors. The warriors take down the Hornet, but they don't want to face that blitzer horde. Yeah, and there's a processor there to charge them right back up. Oh, that monolith is in air attack mode. I guess it doesn't matter what mode he's in. Asur's got him covered either way. Sawyer's army's really getting ground down here, and he just doesn't have the bank to rebuild it. Conversely, Asur's building a bank. These mineral patches are mostly mined out, but Sawyer did not want to lose the gas here. Just one more monolith stands in the way, and this base is forfeit. Asur's got double the supply now, and his army's quintuple the size. Sawyer's managed to crush his army a few times now, but I don't know if he can do it again. We don't have a cool name for the destruction of a hybrid temple. If anybody has a nickname for this effect coming up, let me know in the comments. How about Emerald Candy Floss? I know, I'll workshop that. Brilliant spontaneity isn't really my thing. I'm more of a verbal diarrhea guy. Sawyer is gonna try to rebuild. He's trying to void warp in another Nemesis and some warriors. I'd love to be wrong, and I often am, but I think this is just a mop-up operation now. At least we'll get to see some monoliths use their spread shot here. This base is hosting a significant portion of Sawyer's workers here, and we know that Spitfires especially excel at killing workers. Here comes the rescue force. It's not impressive in size, but it is in its courage. The Avenger Blitzer combo makes quick works of it, and the imbalance is almost total. Sawyer has almost no army, but he is still mining. There's an Emerald Candy Floss, and Sawyer has stopped making units. I think his hand is hovering over the GG key. Yes, it is, that's it. Asur is your winner, Genetron takes it, which is fortunate because we have a graphic for that. Stick around and we'll say something really deep afterwards. I believe I promised to leave you with a couple of deep thoughts. So here's a couple of gems from the master of deep thoughts himself, Jack Handy. Some people are like slinkies. They don't really have a purpose, but they still bring a smile to your face when you push them down the stairs. I bet when cheetahs race and one of them cheats, the other one goes, "Man, you're such a cheetah," and they laugh and eat a zebra or whatever. If trees could scream, Would we be so cavalier about cutting them down? We might, if they screamed all the time for no good reason. Here's a good trick. Get a job as a judge at the Olympics. Then, if some guy sets a world record, pretend that you didn't see it and go, "Okay, is everybody ready to start now?" Before you criticize someone, walk a mile in their shoes. That way, you'll be a mile from them and you'll have their shoes. I can picture in my mind a world without war, a world without hate, and I can picture us attacking that world because they'd never expect it. Well, that was something completely different, and we'll try not to do that again anytime soon. Do let me know in the comments what you think about the hybrid. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But in the meantime and in between time, let me just say, from my base to yours, Zugzwang out.